Radio, newbradio.com, here on 92.7 FM. Talk with Keon Rose. We had an exciting day yesterday in college football. We've got an exciting day in the NFL today. If you're a Titans fan, the Titans are already playing in the London game. They are losing to the Los Angeles Chargers. I have to get used to saying that they're the LA Chargers. They're losing to the Chargers right now, 10-6. And that offense still doesn't look good. And I was a really big believer in the Titans offense at the beginning of the season. I honestly thought this is something that could come together. I thought that this is, the gut check year for Mariota. He had been trending previously in a positive direction. And this doesn't look good, right? Missing open receivers, that doesn't look good, right? Like the fact of the matter is that offensive line isn't great, but there are lots of teams where the offensive line isn't great. Russell Wilson in Seattle, the offensive line isn't great, and we're not seeing the same mistakes that Mariota's making, and he's been in the league 4 years, right? Like the fact that the offensive line isn't great is kind of an excuse. But it's not the full explanation, right? Like if you have the worst offensive line in football, which I think that's the Giants, then yeah, okay, well, we've got some excuses there. I mean, Eli's still bad independent of all that, but like at least you have a built-in, this line's just not great. But Mariota is behind an offensive line that they make mistakes, but it's not a bad line. We're not talking about the worst offensive line in football, which is something that it looks like the Raiders have and something that it looks like the Giants have. That's not what we're talking about here with the Titans. And so Marcus has just got to be better. I mean, he just has to see the field better. He just has to be able to make pre-snap reads. That to me, in my opinion, in today's NFL, every rule benefiting the quarterback, that is the most important thing that a quarterback has to be able to do. Yeah, the game is more forgiving for the guys that can't, the guys that don't necessarily do it well, but you still have to be able to do it, right? And look at the success of a lot of the young quarterbacks in the league. The guys that are able to have success are capable of making, of making those pre-snap reads. And the guys that are struggling, Blake Bortles, you can't do it, right? Like they just don't have it. So I'm looking at it and I go, This is where Marcus Mariota is in the league. When you've been in the league 3 or 4 years, this is me starting to back off of the potential argument. The ceiling is higher. He is a young quarterback, but we know what you are. They're like Deshaun Watson to me. Even though the Texans are 3-3, they started with 3 losses in a row, had to win a must-win game in Dallas to keep their season alive, and they are still very much alive. Deshaun Watson's special. You saw it last year, and the Texans, I'll talk about the Texans a little bit later and whether or not I still believe in that football team, but the Texans, like Deshaun Watson and the Texans, they look good, right? Deshaun Watson looks special. Patrick Mahomes looks special. Ryan Tannehill doesn't. And I'm starting to, because this is the year where you can really decide, I'm starting to move Marcus closer to that. This guy's Ryan Tannehill. That's the box that he's in. He's going to give you mobility. He's going to give you arm strength and accuracy, but he's not the answer. He's not the answer. And I'm watching the game right now, and he just took a sack there that I don't think he had to take. He had a guy in the flat, but like this is what I'm talking about with Mariota. I don't know if he's gun shy because the offensive line has let him down, but you've also got to call for protections, and you've also got to get the ball out of your hands quickly. If you are Marcus Mariota, you can't allow a defense to get to you if you know that the line is weak in certain spots, which it is weaker on the left side of that line. It is. But I can't understand what we're all seeing for Mariota. I think we want him to be good, but he's got to show us something. This is the season. And it's the season for a couple of guys. It's the season for him. It is the season for Dak. Dak's got to show us something. I'm not the biggest believer in Marcus Mariota at the moment. And that's disappointing to me. That's disappointing to me because I am a pretty big believer in him overall and was at the very beginning. But this is me starting to hop off the bandwagon. This is me beginning to jump off the bandwagon because I'm not seeing it. I'm really not seeing it. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. So we had college football yesterday. I have some thoughts about who is real and who isn't real in college football. This is something you just have to evaluate from time to time in that sport because one loss ruins your season. Right? Like losing one game doesn't make you the worst team in the world, but it ruins your season. Your chances of making the playoff get much lower when you take a single loss. The NFL, you could be the Texans starting 0-3 and still might have a chance to win that division because the Colts are bad. The Titans are up and down. You could really come away on top of that division. You really don't have that same option, and you don't really have that same opportunity in college football. You lose one game and it's all over. So we start asking the question, like, who's actually real and who isn't? Alabama's obviously the real deal. They're probably the most real of all the teams in college football because they have two quarterbacks. It doesn't matter if it's Tua. It doesn't matter if it's Jalen. They can put points on you. They beat Tennessee down yesterday. I don't even think Tennessee played bad. I think they just played Alabama like everybody else this year. That's the real problem. Like Jeremy Pruitt, there's only but so much that you can do when you are rolling up on Nick Saban, and Nick Saban has a stacked hand, right? Like the deck is loaded in favor of Saban for all of these games. Is that good or bad for college football? We'll get to that a little bit later on. But the most real team in college football is the Alabama Crimson Tide. But LSU is real. I don't know if LSU can deliver a punch to Alabama. But here's what I do know about LSU as compared to Alabama. LSU has, at least on the defensive side of the ball, every bit the defensive talent that Alabama's got. And they have a bona fide gamer at quarterback, Joe Burrow. Burrow's a bit of a gunslinger. He is. He's going to throw the ball, and sometimes you go, no, yes. Right? He's going to do that for you. But he's also got some mobility. If the play breaks down, he can get outside of the pocket. You can actually use him on designed runs. He's able to make plays for LSU at quarterback that the Tigers haven't had in a very long time. They haven't had in a very long time. And there was some talk at the beginning of the season. Is Ed Orgeron on the hot seat? Listen, two things about Ed Orgeron being on the hot seat. One, they want him to succeed at LSU. Like, me and Nick talk about this all the time. Nick LaFew of the Breakfast Blitz from 8 to 10 on Saturday mornings. Me and Nick talk about this all the time. They want Edo to succeed. He's a Cajun. He's one of them. They want Ed Orgeron to succeed. But the other thing that's really interesting is, to be completely honest with you, Ed Orgeron was never given that job back. He was named interim head coach after Les Miles got fired. And Ed Orgeron, you just look at the confidence of that guy. At no point in the entire process did he ever intend on giving that job back. And, you know, we did have our questions. Is Ed Orgeron more suited to be a position coach? Is he more a coordinator than a head coach? No, he can do the head coaching job. But what he does need is the same thing that we all need in college football: talent at the quarterback position and a defense that can get after it. He's had the defense, but now he's got the talent at quarterback. And in the SEC, that's huge, clearly, because the teams that are succeeding are the ones who have talent at quarterback. Even underachieving Auburn can still beat up a team on any given Saturday because they have Jarrett Stidham. Right? I think Gus Malzahn's lost that locker room, but the talent is there at that position, so they can go out there and beat Washington to start the year and make us all think that they're actually going to be good. Like, they have that. If you don't have a quarterback, even in the SEC, which everyone thinks is defense, everybody thinks it's run. If you don't have a quarterback, even in the SEC, you're not going anywhere. That's the reason why Tennessee, you've got to be very happy with the promise that Garantano's showing, right? Now, you've got to be pleased with that progress and with that growth, Because if you don't have a quarterback, you're not really going anywhere. That's the reason why I think that LSU is actually real. Michigan and Harbaugh. People don't like Jim Harbaugh, and understandably. He talks too much. He's very opinionated, and his opinions are crazy. It's not being opinionated that's the problem. We act like having the opinions is the real issue. It's not. It's that Jim Harbaugh's kind of a jerk, and he has these wild opinions, and the wild opinions are always in favor of Jim Harbaugh. That's the problem. It's hard. You can't stand him. If you knew Jim Harbaugh or somebody like Jim Harbaugh in your life, you'd hate him. Right? Jim Harbaugh's the only guy. He's the guy that you can like if he's your coach. Everybody else doesn't like him. And I have friends that are Michigan fans, and they don't like him. They're happy that he's winning, but they don't like him either. But Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, that team's for real. I know Michigan State is bad. They're bad. D'Antonio has led that team off a cliff. He's got incompetent coordinators. He refuses to fire them. State's bad. But that was a dominating defensive win against a team that still can score. Michigan State can score. And Michigan State, their defense is weaker than it has been in years past, but that defense is a really good defense too. And Michigan showed up, pushed them around for 4 quarters, scored, and went home. Right? It wasn't a dominating offensive performance from them, but defensively, they smothered Michigan State. And offensively, they can play well enough. Shea Patterson gives them the quarterback, gives them the offensive firepower that they need to compete. You have an Ohio State team that lost this past Saturday. If you're Michigan, you control your destiny to the college football playoff. You beat Ohio State, you're basically in. That is the only real game that the Wolverines have left. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh are real. The Clemson Tigers and Trevor Lawrence played down in at the Atlanta area. Trevor Lawrence, in high school anyway, Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, they're the real deal. And we thought that maybe Clemson, they might have been overrated. They looked weak at the beginning of the season. They didn't start with Trevor Lawrence. They ended up having to play him eventually as a true freshman, and he's everything that's been advertised. And when he got injured, I thought, well, uh-oh. Sky might be falling on Dabo Swinney and Clemson. And I really thought so. But Trevor Lawrence looks like everything that was advertised. He looks like everything that was advertised. And if that's going to be the case, then yeah, you're Dabo Swinney. You can go on ahead and punch your ticket to the college football playoff too, because there's nothing in the ACC that's going to stop them from going. Nothing in that, like there's nothing left on that schedule really that ought to stop you from going to the college football playoff. If you're Clemson, you just have to go out there and win the ball games that are in front of you. And with that team, especially with that defense, which is so underrated for Clemson all these years. And I know we've been wowed by Deshaun Watson. He's a gamer. He's a playmaker. That defense has been the backbone of that team from the very beginning. And now they have Trevor Lawrence, who is a tremendous thrower of the football and a great passer. But I absolutely can't believe how dominant that defense looks. And I've watched them for a couple of Saturdays now, and I go, okay, you know what? It's time for me to really, really stop underrating Clemson the way that I have been doing. They've been great. They've been better than great. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio, NougatRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. So those are the teams to me that are really real in college football. Team that's not real, Ohio State. Ohio State's been terrible. Look, offensively, they've been great. Dwayne Haskins is a tremendous quarterback. He throws for 400 yards every week. I'm not crazy. That offense, the wide receivers that they have that can beat anybody in space, you put any of those guys one-on-one against most defensive backs in the country, and they blow them away. But that's a Band-Aid. That's a Band-Aid. We have been distracted by the sleight of hand. The same way that Deshaun Watson and this year Trevor Lawrence have covered up how good Clemson's defense have been because they wow us so much on offense, we forget what the defense can do. When we look at Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins has been a Band-Aid on that defense. I almost want to say that Urban Meyer and that squad should just be ashamed of themselves as for what they do on the defensive side of the ball. It's terrible. They can't stop anybody. They struggled not this week, but the week before against Minnesota. Against Minnesota. And PJ Fleck, the coach up in Minnesota, that guy's a good coach. I'm not really trying to squash PJ Fleck, but let's be honest, okay? Minnesota has a walk-on freshman quarterback, and they are a young team, and they're awful. That is just the long and short of it. And if you are the Ohio State, you should not be struggling against Minnesota. Minnesota and Maryland are two of the youngest, the most deficient teams in the Big Ten. How are you struggling against Minnesota if you're Ohio State? And that's when I saw that game, I went, uh-oh. There might be some chinks in the armor here for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't know that they walk in the way that we think they're going to walk in. They're still a very good football team because that passing attack covers a lot of problems. They'll score a lot of points. But we saw this past week when they lost. If it doesn't get rolling for Ohio State, they're not able to go out there and push you around. They fall behind. They rely so heavily on that passing game. It is a little bit problematic. It is. And I wonder what their solution to that's going to be. And then they lose Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa has basically a sports hernia type injury. It's a soft tissue injury in the stomach area. And at that point, Nick Bosa's decided, you know what? I'm not coming back for the rest of the year. I'm just going to prepare for the NFL draft. And we have people behaving as though this is the downfall of college football. Oh no, we're just going to have guys sitting out their last year so that they can make more money in the NFL. To which I say more power to them. These guys are not getting paid. At least not in any way that we legally know. They're not getting paid. They can't legally be paid. And that's the part that's absolutely crazy. So Nick Bosa is getting ready to go to the NFL, and I don't have a problem with it. He stands to lose a lot of money if he gets injured doing this. Now, if it was a hand injury, a joint injury, you can actually look at those injuries, and there's a timeline for when you can come back. Right? Those injuries, to me, are injuries. If they say that you should be good in 3 weeks, then you don't risk injuring anything. Just don't play for the 3 weeks that you're healing and then come back. But when you have something like a sports hernia that playing can make it worse and you're actually not sure exactly how long it takes to recover, man, just sit out the year. Just sit out the year. There's nothing for you. And look, Tim Tebow, who is a tremendous college football analyst, to the point where, Tim Tebow's stint in the NFL, we remember for being short-lived, exciting, and then when it was done, and then he went on to try and play baseball. Tim Tebow, as a college football analyst, he does that better than a lot of guys who've been doing it for years. Tim Tebow thinks that Nick Bosa should try and play and come back because of the college experience. The college experience is not worth millions of dollars. It isn't. If Nick Bosa comes back and re-injures himself and winds up not being a first rounder, which he's guaranteed to be, Nick Bosa's going in the top 5 because he's got enough on tape that he's going in the top 5. If Nick Bosa comes back and he injures himself, and that injury, we're not sure about it now, and it causes him to fall out of the first round, guess what? You can't get that money back. You might be able to come back, get healthy, and make some kind of second contract, but you could have a big first and second contract. And Tim Tebow's point was, well, your brother's in the NFL. Your brother could support you if you end up not being the NFL player that we thought you could be because you got injured. No, you're not going to rely on your brother's money. I have 2 brothers. I would, if I somehow had a lot of money, I would support them. But the 2 of them, ask them, they don't want to have to rely on me. Why would they want that? That's absolutely insane. And, the example of people being Chicken Little about this and going, the sky is falling. Hey, remember when Leonard Fournette sat out of that bowl game so he could get ready for the NFL because he was dealing with a nagging injury? People forget that Leonard Fournette played with that nagging injury all year long. Okay, he had plantar fasciitis in his foot, which is incredibly painful. It's a torn tendon in the bottom of your foot. And you know what happened to Leonard Fournette? He did get drafted high in the first round. And Leonard Fournette hasn't been healthy in the NFL since he got there. Has Leonard Fournette played more than 4 games in a row? I don't think so. Listen to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, are they real? Next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say 2 men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
David Toulis, I made the move, 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nuga Radio.
92.7 Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect a wet start to your Saturday with morning showers. It'll be dry and breezy for the afternoon, though highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, turning colder, still breezy, lows upper 30s to near 40. Sunshine staying into the 50s. Sunday, mid and upper 30s with scattered frost by Monday morning. Beautify your yard with Glass Farm Nursery, now with a big assortment of pansies and violas, as well as first quality 8-inch mums, only $5.99. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Swargene 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge, but if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at LandersMcClartyFord of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at LandersMcClartyFord of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric. You're our winner.
Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio.
I've been riding Dak Prescott all year. You know, busting his chops. Because I think that as much as I like Dak coming out of college, he's regressed a lot this year. His rookie season was sensational. The fact that Ezekiel Elliott was there did play a huge part in that. Dak Prescott on any other team behind a different offensive line and with a different running back probably doesn't have the rookie year that he had. Though I don't hold that against him. You play with the teammates you have. It's not your fault you have good teammates and that you're good because you have good teammates. That's a weird thing for people to criticize. Like, he's only good because he's got Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. You're good when you have good teammates. Doesn't everybody do their job better when the people they work with are also good at their job? Isn't this why you go to good companies, why you work with good coworkers? That's pretty much it. That's not what I'm holding against Dak Prescott. What I am holding against him is he was able to do one thing that he doesn't do now. He did pre-snap reads a whole lot better. He was able to look at a defense and diagnose what was going on. But you know what else was happening in year one? He had Tony Romo as a mentor on the bench. Ever since Tony Romo's been in the broadcast booth over at CBS, where he has also been fantastic, then Dak Prescott hasn't been able to have somebody to walk him through all of this and seemingly encourage him and get him in the mindset to where he can make the right decisions pre-snap in the NFL, which is unfortunate because I think that he can be really good. I think Dak can throw the ball well enough. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's accurate enough and he's mobile, so that gives him a chance to extend plays. This can happen and this can work in Dallas. But Dak hasn't been good this year. And the fact that he was able to beat the Jaguars last week and they put up 40 points, Dak still didn't throw for 200 yards. He ran a lot. That's not sustainable in the NFL. And I don't think that means that Dak has turned the corner. And I don't think that means that Dak Prescott is suddenly good. And here's why. One reason is the quarterback on the opposing side was Blake Bortles. And I know we say this all the time. When the NFL wants to hype up a game, who do we hype up? We hype up the quarterbacks. You know, the great matchups, Brady versus Manning. Tom Brady never played against Peyton Manning because they're never on the field at the same time. But the opposing quarterback does have an impact against the quarterback that he's playing against. And the impact that he has is this. The impact is when I have the ball, you don't have the ball. I'm using my offense as defense and keeping you off the field. Blake Bortles last week had one of the most horrendous performances I've ever seen from a quarterback ever. Not just this season, not just in the last 5 years. Blake Bortles last week was as bad as he has ever been. And I would argue, outside of Nathan Peterman this season, because Nathan Peterman's been real bad. Outside of Nathan Peterman, Blake Bortles' performance last week is the worst I've ever seen. Okay, let me give you the Blake Bortles stat line from last week. It was 15 of 26. It was 149 yards, an interception, and a touchdown. First off, the 15 completed passes, that's misleading because most of that didn't happen until the second half in garbage time. But Blake Bortles is a garbage time monster. Blake Bortles can get you more yards when the game doesn't matter than any quarterback in the league. He's rated higher than Tom Brady in garbage time numbers. Like he's amazing when the coverages are soft and nobody cares. But Blake Bortles, when the game actually matters, you don't know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. And the Jaguars were treating Blake Bortles like he was an actual quarterback, and he played decently well, and he did the one thing that I thought was actually impossible, which is that he made us forget that he was Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles also didn't reach 200 yards passing, and more importantly, he was just running around out there, throwing the ball in places that are, to be kind, let's just say unlikely. Unlikely. And what my point here is that Dak Prescott's stat line is only vaguely better than Blake Bortles. He was 17 of 27, so he completed 2 more passes on 1 more pass attempt for 20 more yards, still less than 200, and he threw 2 touchdowns and at least no interceptions. At least no interceptions. But the other thing is Dallas matched up really well against Jacksonville. Jacksonville believes very strongly in their corners. They believe in their upfront pass rush, and they believe in their corners, which is smart because they have tremendous corners, Jalen Ramsey being the most popular one, and they have a tremendous pass rush. They do. So I would believe in that, and I would bank on that too. But teams with a worse defense than the Cowboys or than the Jaguars have been beating the Cowboys. Jacksonville just made that way too complicated. The Cowboys have been losing to teams with worse defenses than what Jacksonville brought to the table. Just plain and simple. The Cowboys have been beaten by teams who know they don't have the best corners. But they know Ezekiel Elliott's in the game. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to stack the box against Ezekiel Elliott and make Dak read coverages. The Jaguars didn't do that. The Jaguars said, all of our corners are great, so we're going to cover everybody one-on-one. And Dak doesn't have to read a coverage at that point. Who is the receiver that's winning the route? Who's the receiver that's winning? Then he just throws to them. So actually, even though the Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the best defenses in the league, even though Jalen Ramsey is tremendous, even though that defensive line puts pressure on everyone, you know what? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Dak Prescott can now throw one-on-one. Which one of my receivers is winning the route? And Cole Beasley is shifty and quick, and Dak doesn't like to throw the ball deep anyway. So Cole Beasley just needs to win his route short. Well, the receiver, look, this is an offensive league. You look at the rules are made for offense. The receiver needs to win his route short. Cole Beasley's better at that than anybody in the league. Like, Cole Beasley would be an excellent New England Patriot because he's short and shifty, and he runs great short routes. Tom Brady would love him. Dak doesn't like to throw the ball far either. Dak loves Cole Beasley. So you're not forcing Dak to read a coverage. He doesn't have to. That's his weakness. Dak's weakness is literally everything that happens before the ball is snapped. Because that's when you're trying to figure out a defense and decipher what they're trying to do to you. He can't. He's shown us time and time again this year. These are the teams that have beaten the Dallas Cowboys this season. San Francisco, Cincinnati, Arizona, Houston, Carolina, and Seattle. And the only team that you could argue is even in the same league defensively with the Jacksonville Jaguars is Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense is really good. San Francisco's isn't. Oh, Lord, the Cardinals isn't. The Texans aren't. The Panthers are pretty good up front, but like as far as their corners go, Jacksonville has far superior corners. Seattle's isn't. All those teams beat the Cowboys, and in some cases badly. Arizona beat the Cowboys really bad. Arizona knows they're not great defensively. What did they do well in the game that they beat Dallas 27-3? They loaded the box against Ezekiel Elliott and made Dak read coverage. Dak can't read coverage. And I'm looking at the Redskins game today with Dallas and Washington. I'm not going to give away my pick, but the Redskins have some corners that they like, but the Redskins mostly just load the box and make people read coverage because they know they're weak on the back end. Dak Prescott's not dropping 40 on Washington today. And Washington's not anywhere near as good as Jacksonville defensively. They're just not. Is Dak Prescott for real just because he led his offense to put up 40 points last week? No. Jacksonville showed up with the personnel that they had, and they had the wrong game plan for the Dallas Cowboys. They had the wrong game plan. That's a great matchup. Jason Garrett said it before. They quoted Jason Garrett in the broadcast last week. Jason Garrett liked the matchup against Jacksonville. That's the first time Jason Garrett looked at his schedule and said, hey, I actually think we can win this one. Because he knew Jacksonville's not going to make us do the thing that we're weak at, which is reading coverages. And until Dak Prescott plays a team that forces him to read a coverage, and I actually see him read the coverage and make the right decision, then I'll believe it. Because I haven't seen it all year long. There's no point in this entire season where that's been something that I've witnessed. Maybe you've seen it, but I don't know. This is a 3-3 football team, so someone's going to have to tell me where that happened. And they escape. The two other wins that they have are Detroit, who's terrible, and New York, who's worse. So the only convincing win that they have is a Jacksonville Jaguars team that game planned incorrectly. Okay. All right. That doesn't tell me that Dak's here. In the same way that I look at Jared Goff and I go, that guy's here. Or I look at Patrick Mahomes and I go, that guy's here. Like, of all the young guys, even Rosen, who had a terrible game on Thursday night. The Broncos beat him 45-10. Josh Rosen threw 3 picks. I mean, they beat him up. He didn't have any way to get away from Von Miller. But Arizona's got a bad offensive line. Dallas's offensive line is not that bad. We were talking about them being one of the best premier offensive lines in the league not but one season ago. And they are injured and they are dinged up. But that's everybody in the league at this point. Right? Like, once you're 7 weeks into the season, that's all of us. Everybody's dinged. Just one season ago, we were looking at Dallas's offensive line and saying this might be the best offensive line in football, anchored by Tyron Smith, the left tackle. That this might be one of the best we've seen. So no, there's nothing there that leads me to believe that Dak Prescott is a legitimate quarterback. He hasn't shown me anything. And the Jaguars game might seem to indicate something, but not to me. When a team is game planning properly for Dak Prescott, let me know. You let me know. So the other quarterback I have a question for, is Deshaun Watson. Is Deshaun Watson the real deal? That team, Houston, also 3-3, battling in the division with the Titans. Titans playing right now, by the way, in the London game. I've got it on in the studio. They're losing to the Chargers 17-3, and Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are on the 10-yard line. So I can't imagine that this doesn't result in points. It's 2nd and 6. Rivers looking downfield. He's going to loft it into the end zone. That's going to go out the back of the end zone. So it's 3rd and 6. But I think that the Titans are fighting an uphill battle here. Them losing to the Chargers today, if they were to lose to the Chargers, doesn't mean that they're bad. The Chargers are legitimately, they're 4-2. They are a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. They're that good. But the Titans put themselves in this position by losing a game to, for instance, the Bills. They ride the roller coaster of Mariota, who reminds me more and more of Ryan Tannehill and Joe Flacco on a weekly basis. They can give you good games, but they also give you games where you just scratch your head and go, what on earth are you doing? And I'm starting to have to put Mariota in that place, which doesn't mean you can't win with him. The Ravens won a Super Bowl with Flacco. The Dolphins always look better when they have Tannehill than when they don't have Tannehill. You can win with the guy. The question I have, though, is this the long-term answer, or is it time with Mike Vrabel starting his tenure as head coach to go quarterback hunting in the draft? But I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get that top pick like the Raiders might be. But hey, you might still have some good options there. But I want to talk about Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson seems to have some similarities to Dak Prescott. They're both guys that were very electrifying in college. They have mobility, gamers, playmakers, right? As much as I bust Dak Prescott's chops, I do think that he's a gamer. I do think that he is a quality player. And I never would question the heart of Dak Prescott. He's got it. Deshaun Watson, I'd say the same thing. The Texans are 3-3, but to me, the Texans are a better 3-3 than the Dallas Cowboys are. And here's why I think this. And the Texans are playing the Jaguars today. They have better weapons than Dallas does. I just don't think the Jaguars are going to have 2 letdown games in a row. I just don't see that happening the way that defense plays and the pride that they have. I just don't see them having 2 letdown games in a row. But here's why Deshaun Watson and the Texans are more hopeful to me than the Cowboys are. The Cowboys still have no offensive identity. Pretty much, if you show up with the wrong game plan, that is the only way the Cowboys can beat you. Meanwhile, the Texans are top 5 in the league in total offense. Right? They put a bunch of yards. And they're top 3 in the league in trips to the red zone. This is not something that you can say about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. They're top 3 in trips to the red zone. The problem that the Texans have is that they walk away with a lot of field goals and not enough touchdowns. And they've got to find a way to convert in the red zone. They do. That is going to be their biggest weakness. That is going to be the biggest problem that they have. Is if they can't find a way to punch it into the end zone, they're going to have a rough time this year. But when Dak Prescott got out to that hot start last year, that was something that they were doing. They were going to the end zone. They were scoring. They were finding ways at the goal line to be a little bit tricky. We saw some of the creativity of Bill O'Brien. And now people are treating Bill O'Brien like somehow he's regressed as a coach. And Bill O'Brien is the same coach that he was last year when we all loved the Texans and we all loved Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott is the same quarterback that we saw last year. He's made some rookie mistakes, but in fairness, he didn't get to finish his rookie season. He was injured. So he's gonna still be making rookie mistakes here in year 2 because he had a shortened year 1. But that doesn't mean that he's regressed in the same way that we've seen Dak regress. Deshaun Watson can still move the ball up the field. He still makes the right decisions throwing the football between the 20s. The issue that Deshaun Watson has, and the issue that needs to be resolved if you're the Houston Texans, is when we get into the red zone, can we score points? Can we score points? That's pretty much going to be the answer coming down for them. Because otherwise, you're going to be riding the roller coaster of the Houston Texans and of Deshaun Watson all year long. The roller coaster of Dak Prescott is a scary, scary roller coaster to ride. I'm not a fan of it. The roller coaster of Marcus Mariota is a scary roller coaster to ride. The roller coaster of Joe Flacco. You get tremendous highs. You also have incredible lows. Deshaun Watson is more stable than all of the guys that I just mentioned. He's more stable than them. But he's not scoring in the red zone the way he was, and that's something that you can fix. That's scheming. That's coaching. That's Deshaun Watson maturing and becoming the kind of player who can make those decisions and make those throws in the red zone. And it does help that he has talent at wide receiver, which Dak doesn't have. Dak's got Cole Beasley. And no disrespect to Cole Beasley, but Deshaun's got DeAndre Hopkins and Kyle Fuller. Those are 2 legitimate outside threats. I'm not as worried about the Texans. I think the Texans really can play. And the Chargers came away with a field goal. They lead the Titans 20-3 heading into the 4th quarter. Here's one thing I do like about the London games. Morning football. Morning football. Like, pretty much, this is what it's like to live on the West Coast. This is what it's like to live on the West Coast. Sundays happen, and you get morning football. Morning football is fantastic. You roll out of bed, you've got a bowl of cereal, you walk out to the couch, either you do or do not have on your favorite house shirt or no shirt at all, and then you sit on the couch and you can watch your Titans right now. Granted, they're not winning, but they're close. They're close in a good game with a Super Bowl contending team. This team is 4-2. Right? Win today, it'll be 5-2. The Titans are 3-3, and you don't want to fall below 500 for the year if you're going to be battling with the Texans. That's the issue if you're the Titans. The fear is falling below 500. Granted, this is the division you could fall below 500 and resurrect yourself. This AFC South might be the worst division in football because you've got the Jags, you've got the Colts, you've got the Texans, you've got the Titans. But like I said, the Titans are riding the Mariota roller coaster. We don't know what we get from a week-to-week basis with the guy, and I'm worried about him. The Texans have to figure out what to do in the red zone. The Colts are just bad. Andrew Luck still is trying to be some good, decent, watchable version of himself. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have the best team, best rushing attack, best defense, worst quarterback of the whole bunch. Right? I think Mariota is a roller coaster. But at least Mariota gives you more highs than lows. Blake Bortles is usually just bad. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Is Alabama bad for college football? Plus the NFL picks next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say two men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect a wet start to your Saturday with morning showers. It'll be dry and breezy for the afternoon, though highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, turning colder, still breezy, lows upper 30s to near 40. Sunshine staying into the 50s. Sunday, mid and upper 30s with scattered frost by Monday morning. Beautify your yard with Glass Farm Nursery, now with a big assortment of pansies and violas, as well as first quality 8-inch mums, only $5.99. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sorgene 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Whether you have marginal, moderate, or even extensive hair loss, you don't have to live with it. Finally, there's a procedure that becomes a part of you, and it requires no daily maintenance or special care. Let Apollo Hair Systems give you a free hair and scalp analysis today. Call 423-803-1011 and schedule this free evaluation today. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Apollo Hair Systems, 5512 Ringgold Road in Chattanooga. 423-803-1011 for Apollo Hair Systems.
Paid for by Diane Black for governor, Tommy Whitaker treasurer.
So, who are you supporting for governor?
I think I'm voting for Bill Lee.
So you're voting in the Democratic primary?
What?
Bill Lee really ought to be running in the Democratic primary. I mean, he'd see a lot of familiar faces.
Hello?
All right, look, Phil Bredesen's running in the Democratic primary for Senate.
Yeah?
Well, Bill Lee gave Phil Bredesen money.
Wait, Bredesen's big-time pro-abortion.
And Carl Dean's the Democratic candidate for governor.
Big-time liberal.
But Bill Lee gave Carl Dean money, too. And Bill Lee pushed for Megan Barry to be mayor.
She's pro...
WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Quicken Loans.
I'm Wendy Gillette. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has shared his condolences with the family of Jamal Khashoggi, saying on Fox his death inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul was a huge and grave mistake. The Saudi crown prince has denied knowing about a plan to kill the dissident writer, a claim Republican Lindsey Graham questioned on Fox.
He was clearly murdered in a consulate. Things like that don't happen in Saudi Arabia without people at the top knowing.
Democrat Dick Durbin said on NBC the U.S. needs to send a message.
We ought to formally expel the Saudi ambassador from the United States until there is a completion of a third-party investigation into this kidnap, murder, and God knows what followed.
President Trump says the U.S. will pull out of a Cold War-era nuclear arms treaty because of Russian violations. Former Undersecretary of State Wendy Sherman said on CNN, quitting the treaty is not a good plan.
We are in a very dangerous situation where we are pulling out of the concept of arms control rather than doubling down to get more arms control. And we are looking to create an environment where the risks of war are going up.
A concerning move for transgender people, CBS News correspondent Jim Taylor explains.
It is the most drastic move yet in a government-wide effort to roll back recognition and protections of transgender people under federal civil rights law. New York Times reports the Trump administration is considering narrowly defining gender as a biological, immutable condition determined by genitalia at birth. According to a memo obtained by the Times, the agency's proposed definition would define sex as either male or female, unchangeable, determined at or before birth. The Human Rights Campaign says transgendered people are frightened. Jim Taylor, CBS News.
More than 50 people were killed, including children, this weekend in violence tied to Afghanistan's elections. Afghani officials say 4 million people voted over 2 days. CBS News correspondent Charlie D'Agata is in Kabul.
The very fact that they've extended the vote today means that they have more people that want to vote than were able to vote yesterday. Take, for instance, here in Kabul, they had a very high voter turnout, but they also had the highest number of attacks. We spoke to several voters. They said, it's flawed. We know that we're risking our lives, but it's all we have.
2 big lottery jackpots are yours for the hoping this week. Good luck. You'll need it. The odds are thin, but the jackpot's large. No one won Powerball last night. The jackpot now stands at $620 million, and the Mega Millions prize has jumped to $1.6 billion, a new world record. This is CBS News.
National mortgage lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. Licensed in all 50 states, equal housing lender, NMLS number 3030.
Today at Target, discover all the ways to get your Target run done, like order pickup. Just order ahead and have it waiting for you at the store. Or select Drive Up in the Target app and we'll bring it right out to your car. And now Target can run to you with same-day delivery or next-day delivery on the things you use every day with Target Restock. From face wash and dish detergent to pancake mix, it's never been easier or faster to get what you need when you need it. Target run and done. Learn more at target.com/ways to shop. Restrictions may apply.
This Halloween, you can find treats for everybody at Walgreens, like the fairy princess who only likes Kit Kats, or the superhero who's allergic to peanuts, even the witch who will try to sneak more M&Ms when nobody's looking. So, find the treats that are perfect for them all at Walgreens. With great prices and easy in, easy out, it's all right here. Now through October 27th, select Mars, Wrigley, and Hershey candy bags are buy one, get one 50% off. Shop for your Halloween treats today. Walgreens, trusted since 1901.
The competition is fierce this year to hire seasonal staff for the holidays. Correspondent Stefan Kaufman reports.
Retailers and shippers are trying to hire enough workers to keep sales humming during the holiday shopping season. Trouble is manpower's in short supply. The job market is the tightest in at least 2 decades. The unemployment rate at a 49-year low.
They need customer service and sales and distribution people, and they're just very hard to find in this market.
Tony Lee with the Society for Human Resource Management says businesses are using dollars as leverage.
Companies are raising the minimum wage that they're paying just to attract qualified candidates.
Stefan Kaufman, CBS News.
You might find something very different from what you're searching for on Google Maps. A Peruvian paper reports a couple recently divorced when the husband spotted his wife on Google Maps Street View with another man. Her face was blurred in the still image, but he recognized her clothes and other characteristics. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say 2 men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, then forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect a wet start to your Saturday with morning showers. It'll be dry and breezy for the afternoon, though highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, turning colder, still breezy, lows upper 30s to near 40. Sunshine staying into the 50s. Sunday, mid and upper 30s with scattered frost by Monday morning. Beautify your yard with Glass Farm Nursery, now with a big assortment of pansies and violas, as well as first quality 8-inch mums, only $5.99. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sorgene 12, Chief Meteorologist, Patrick Core.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
We just started a family and we're already planning for the future. Michael Levy has helped pave the way to keep our financial future on track. He's local, he knows us, and cares about what's important to us. Don't put your future on hold. Call Michael Levy, 779-7755.
I'm Bo Watson, and I approve this ad.
This is Hamilton County Sheriff Kim Hammond. In today's society, safety for our children, families, and others are critical. State Senator Bo Watson is working hard to make sure that safety for all Tennesseans is paramount to our future. This is why I'm asking for your vote for Bo Watson, a leader in Nashville that is working for us and safety for all. Vote for Bo Watson for Tennessee's future.
Paid for by Friends of Bo Watson, Boy W. Watson III, Treasurer, votefortennessee.com.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
So there's a report out there from the Buffalo Bills. The Bills could lose the locker room. They could lose the locker room if they start Nathan Peterman at quarterback again. Now they had to stop starting Nathan Peterman because Nathan Peterman he's been undeniably terrible. He is off to the worst start of any quarterback in the history of football, to the point where Nathan Peterman has told the media, look, football doesn't define me. Football, the only reason why a football player would say that football does not define me is if what football is defining isn't a very good picture. The guys who don't mind being defined by football are the guys who are really good at football. Like, you're never going to hear Aaron Rodgers say, well, football doesn't define me. Of course it defines him because he's great at it. We know Aaron Rodgers to be, at least talent-wise, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, if not the greatest. Tom Brady said that if Aaron Rodgers played in his system, they'd never lose. Right? Those are the words of Tom Brady. That's what football defines Brady. Football defines Breeze. Football defines Rodgers. They're great. What do you mean? The only people when you start saying X, Y, and Z doesn't define me, it's because you're not very good. You're just not very good. Nathan Peterman has already trotted out this early in his career. What is this? His fifth or sixth NFL start? Hey, football does not define me. Oh, yes, it does, Peterman. Yes, it does. Of course it defines you. It's just you don't like the definition of what it's defining. You don't like those words. Because the words that are coming up are bad and terrible. And now here's some more words. The head coach could lose the locker room if he starts Nathan Peterman again because they're not playing for that guy. Nathan Peterman has thrown an alarming amount of interceptions to start his career. Here's the wildest stat that is associated with the beginning of Nathan Peterman's career. What's your opinion on Alex Smith? Some people think he's always been an average quarterback. Some people think he's underrated. I personally am of the belief that Alex Smith is an average quarterback. He's always been average. He's never been as great as people hyped him up to be. But if you put him in the right system with the right teammates, he can be very successful. It's not the best system that he's at in Washington, but that offense that the Redskins have is the most control that offense has ever been under. But if you at the most optimistic view of Alex Smith is that Alex Smith is average, just powerfully average. And despite all of that, if Alex Smith threw 90 straight interceptions, he still wouldn't have as bad a touchdown interception ratio as Nathan Peterman. Right? I'm not comparing Peterman to Brady. I'm not comparing Peterman, but if Nathan Peterman wants to last in the NFL, he's going to have to at least become as consistent and as average as Alex Smith. Unlikely. And I don't know if I've ever seen this before in my life. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy be so bad. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy be so terrible, so outright bad, that his teammates said, I'm not going to play for you. But what else are they supposed to do? You want to usually keep the locker room unified, rally around the guy, but here's the issue. Football's a dangerous game. You are actually risking your life when you play football. I've seen some of the most ridiculous things happen on a football field so far as injuries go. The Packers had some great defensive backs a few years ago, and all of those guys had to retire because of some form of a broken neck. I watched Johnny Knox, who used to play for the Chicago Bears, go up, catch a pass, and get folded in half in the wrong direction, right? Not the way that people can usually bend forward and touch their toes. He bent back the other way, injured his back, and his career was over. The game of football is way too dangerous to be going out there and saying, Nathan Peterman is the quarterback I'm playing for, when I know that guy is abjectly terrible. He's too awful. And so how do you blame these players? How do you blame these players? Yeah, no one's going to play Nathan Peterman. But you know who the other option is? Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson is the third string quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. And while the players have given up on young Nathan Peterman for being the guy that can do even an average job offensively, and, you know, the coach is already in the business of losing this locker room in large part because this was a team that was trying to make a playoff push last year, and he benched Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman, who is bad. To be clear. And then the team still made the playoffs, but he had to go back to Tyrod Taylor. The Nathan Peterman was horrible. Like, it almost got to the point where it was like, what were you even thinking? Like, you're the coach trying to talk to your players, and you go, hey, check this guy out. I know you guys haven't seen him play, but watch what he's going to do for our offense. And he then steps up and plays the Chargers and throws 4 interceptions in a half, in a singular half of football, which I've seen before, but that's real hard to do. For a guy playing at the professional level, that's kind of difficult to do. That's something that none of these young quarterbacks have done this year. And Nathan Peterman was a promising prospect entering the draft. A lot of people did like him. They had him high on their draft boards. But Derek Anderson is not the savior. It is not Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson hasn't started an NFL game in 7 years. And also, Derek Anderson, look, Derek Anderson showed up to be a coach on the sidelines. Derek Anderson did not show up in any of this to be a guy that's actually going out there and playing at this exact point in his career. The Jets have Josh McCown. Josh McCown exists in New York for the sole purpose of being in that quarterback room and being a mentor to Sam Darnold, because everyone in the league knows that he's a great mentor. Derek Anderson was in Carolina for 7 years as a backup to Cam Newton, and he was a mentor to Cam. After he had his chance in the NFL and he wasn't able to be a starting caliber quarterback, he still mentally understands the game. That was a great benefit that the Panthers had, having Derek Anderson behind Cam Newton. When Derek Anderson took this job, I cannot imagine that Derek Anderson actually believed that he would be playing. I know that they say it's the next man up, you know, Johnny on the spot, but come on. Derek Anderson didn't know he was going to be playing in this game, right? You can't honestly think that Derek Anderson thought that at some point in this late in his NFL career, people were actually going to rely on him to put up points. You can't be serious. I know Derek Anderson is absolutely shocked. And now you have Josh Allen saying that it's great. He planned on learning from Derek Anderson. And Derek Anderson planned on teaching him. In the film room. Okay? Yeesh. I mean, wow. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. He's going to lose the locker room if he starts Nathan Peterman. When in your life have you ever seen that? Can you imagine that? You have a coworker that's so bad at their job that you're just like, I'm not even going to do the job if that guy's still here. I've never experienced that. If you have, our phone number is 423-800-8949. You got to call and let me know. I've never seen that before in my whole life. Are the Alabama Crimson Tide bad for college football? Because they had another dominant win against Tennessee. People think it's unfair. I don't think that Alabama is bad for college football, because no one was complaining that they were bad for college football last year. The issue that people have is not whether or not Alabama is winning. The issue that they have is how badly Alabama is beating people by, to the point where it feels like Alabama is unbeatable. Alabama is not unbeatable. They're hard to beat. And if you don't have the kind of caliber of team that they have, and there's a handful of those in the entire nation, Clemson's one, Michigan might be one, Ohio State, at least on the offensive side of the ball, could be one. Defensively, they're a mess. But there are teams in this nation who are capable of beating the Alabama Crimson Tide. LSU might be one. But Alabama hasn't played anybody yet. Alabama hasn't played anybody. The problem that people have, the reason why people think that Alabama this year bad for college football is not who they've beaten. Like Alabama's beaten a bunch of teams that led us to believe that, wow, they're invincible. They're unstoppable. They haven't. They've beaten the same teams that they usually play very badly. I'm going to take a look at Alabama's schedule and tell you my point. Alabama started the season with Louisville, which would have been a good game a couple years ago, wasn't a good game this year. Beat them to death. Then they played Arkansas State, beat them up. Then they played Ole Miss, beat them up too. Ole Miss isn't good. Neither they're much, and they played Texas A&M. Alabama's much better than Texas A&M. And Jimbo Fisher's done a good job with the Aggies this year, but they're not ready. Then they played Louisiana Lafayette. Come on. It doesn't matter if they had Tua, Jalen, or me at quarterback. They were beating Louisiana Lafayette. Then they played Arkansas and Chad Morris trying to turn that program around. I actually think Chad Morris is going to make something out of Arkansas. The issue that comes from that is this. Chad Morris has never been a defensive guy. So when they blew Arkansas away in Fayetteville, we all saw it coming. They played Missouri. Well, Missouri doesn't play defense. And they played Tennessee. Jeremy Pruitt is going to be a legitimate threat as a coach one day. The issue is Tennessee's not very good right now. Nobody thought that Tennessee was going to beat Alabama. So Alabama has played so far, 8 games? They're coming up on their bye week this week. They're 8-0. And they've played a bunch of teams that they would have beaten with or without Tua. They've played a bunch of teams that they would have beaten with or without Tua Tagovailoa. And they beat them badly. But I thought they would have beaten all of those teams badly. The people complaining about Alabama, we can't know whether or not Alabama was good or bad for college football this year until retrospect. Because if Alabama winds up getting to an SEC title game and they show some signs of weakness there, if they get to an SEC title game, wow, Marcus Mariota just did something incredible. He just laid out for a touchdown. I think he got in. He was getting tackled and he was getting dragged down from behind. And he reached across the goal line. Look, it's the Mariota experience, right? You ride the roller coaster with this guy. He's athletic. He makes good decisions when he's running, especially. He's a playmaker. Is he your long-term answer? I don't know that even this game is going to give you the answer to that question. I just don't know. But we're going to try and we're going to have to evaluate him this year and just go, look, he's not electric in that way. But yeah, is Alabama bad for college football? Was the original question. And no, and look, they're not. People didn't have this question of whether or not Alabama was bad for college football on a game-to-game basis for the last 10 years. And they've been dominant for the last 10 years. Why are we just asking this question now? We haven't had, in the last 10 years, a season where Alabama wasn't number one at some point in the season. That's a decade of dominance. They've been beating people badly for years. We're looking at some of these point totals that we're not used to seeing for Alabama. We're looking at the way that Alabama is beating people with their offense as well as their defense. And what we're seeing from the Crimson Tide, we're not used to seeing. And we're wondering if anybody can beat this team. Look, it's not very many, but whether Tua was the quarterback or not, there wouldn't have been many. There wouldn't have been. Who would it have been? Even if Jalen were still the quarterback, who on that schedule beats Alabama? None of the teams I just mentioned would have beaten them. Louisville, Arkansas State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Louisiana Lafayette, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. None of those teams would have beaten them. What's left on the schedule? LSU in Baton Rouge. That's an interesting game. That is an interesting game. You've got an LSU team with a legitimate quarterback and a defense that is every bit as athletic as Alabama can be. But that's the first real challenge on this Alabama schedule, literally the entire season. Then they play Miss State, who they're going to destroy. Then they play the Citadel, who they're going to destroy. And then they play Auburn, which could be a trap game. Auburn's not very good, but Auburn's good enough. They're not going to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're going to win. But I'm saying that the more challenging games on their schedule are LSU and Auburn. That's 2 games out of the entire season where you actually could fundamentally believe that Alabama could potentially lose a football game. And by the time we get to the end of the season, we know that Auburn isn't going to be doing anything. We know this. So my issue with Alabama isn't with how badly they're beating people this year. When you look at other teams in the nation, there are teams that could put up a fight. I don't know if they're going to win. But people treat this like a foregone conclusion, like we just don't know if anybody is capable of beating Alabama. We don't know that yet. But part of that is that the Crimson Tide are really good. They're number 1 in the nation, and rightfully so. But the other reason why we think this is that they haven't played anybody. There isn't anything on that schedule that was ever going to threaten them, with or without Tua. Right? I mean, you give Nick Saban a legitimate quarterback, and these are the totals that they're beating people by. Right? They're scoring in the 50s, which they weren't always doing. Those are the totals that they're beating people by. But at the same time, they haven't played anybody. Like, they're going to beat Arkansas badly. They're going to rout Louisiana Lafayette. Okay? They're going to step over Tennessee. Tennessee this year, they don't have everything that Pruitt needs to be successful. And he's going to have to recruit that. Like, you're not going to be able to judge him as a coach until year 3 or 4 when you get guys from your recruiting cycle, guys that committed to you in. Now, he did a really good job on short notice of recruiting the moment he got in there. He did. And Marcus Mariota, that athletic touchdown, they took it back, but he threw a touchdown dart. 20-19 Chargers over the Titans. So they're probably going to kick the field goal here and see if they can send this into overtime. But Mariota, accurate ball into the end zone. The Titans still fighting in this one. I thought for sure the Chargers would be walking away. Alabama's not bad for college football. I think that people are not looking at the numbers. I think they're freaking out. I think they're panicking. And that's a problem. It's too much panic. It's too much. Look at the size. Look at the gap. Yeah, Tua is a better quarterback, especially downfield passing. He's a better quarterback. I get it. But that doesn't mean that Alabama can't be beaten, and nothing on their schedule, at least, lets you know realistically what that is. Nothing on their schedule lets you know. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio and 92.7 FM. You know, Jameis Winston, that was the right decision that the Buccaneers made, starting him. I know that the end of that game last week was laughable. Right? The end of that game was, look, there was like 5 seconds on the clock. Rather than throw it to the end zone, they had Jameis Winston take off on some kind of quarterback draw. And then as he was being tackled, he lateraled it backwards, and players were lateraling it around. And Deshaun Jackson actually could have scored on a play had he been able to catch the ball, but it bounced away from his feet and bounced off of his feet and bounced out of bounds, and that was the end of the ball game. And Marcus Mariota just overthrew somebody in the back of the end zone. They think it's pass interference. It's not pass interference. And the Chargers win the game 20-19 because that's the Chargers on CBS. All of these games are just ugly. All of these games are just ugly. Every time I watch the Chargers on CBS, it's the most ugly game I've ever seen in my life. That was a good defensive play there. Come on. That final play last week was ridiculous. But Jameis is a better quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. He just is. Right? Whatever you think of Jameis Winston's off-field indiscretions, and I don't like them, and I think he shouldn't be playing on the basis of that, not whether or not him or Ryan Fitzpatrick give the team a better chance to win. Because if we're just talking about pure football ability, the answer is Jameis. It's Jameis. Listen to all new Nuga Radio at NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Remember to give you my NFL picks next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say two men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
David Toulis, I made the move, 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nuga Radio.
92.7 Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect a wet start to your Saturday with morning showers. It'll be dry and breezy for the afternoon, though highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, turning colder, still breezy, lows upper 30s to near 40. Sunshine staying into the 50s. Sunday, mid and upper 30s with scattered frost by Monday morning. Beautify your yard with Glass Farm Nursery, now with a big assortment of pansies and violas, as well as first quality 8-inch mums, only $5.99. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Soar Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. Then if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric. You're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio. 92.7 FM. Plug your Keon Rose. It's time to do the NFL picks. And then, of course, the final point at the end of the show where I rant and rave like some kind of lunatic about something that may or may not be about sports. So I'll give you a hint this time. It is about sports, and it does make me very, very angry that it's even being considered at all. But let's start with the picks, right? The first 1 o'clock game listed here on CBSSports.com is the Panthers visiting the Eagles. The Eagles are 5-point favorites, and the Panthers are 3-2. The Eagles are 3-3. Started really slow. They're starting to look better. Carson Wentz is coming into his own. He's starting to bounce back from that injury. I thought he came back too early from that injury. Granted, you have to come back early, I think, and play on it. The doctors cleared him to physically play. But to be clear, the NFL version of you're done with this injury and the normal human version of you're done with this injury aren't the same. It's not the same. The NFL version of you're done with an ACL tear is always going to be faster. Carson Wentz tore his ACL last December. For him to already be back is insane. It is actually insane. But he's back. And since he's been back, he's thrown 18 touchdowns. He's got 1 interception on the year. Cam's had an up and down season, but a 9-4 touchdown to interception ratio is respectable. Christian McCaffrey has been running the ball a whole lot better and more like the player they drafted him to be. You got to credit Norv Turner with the offensive innovation there. And Cam's been throwing the ball all over the yard. So even though the Eagles are expected to win this game, I still think that they have some more growing to do. I don't think this is the best version of this Eagles team. They don't seem focused to me. They just don't seem focused to me. Maybe more time with Carson Wentz will get them there, but I'm going to go with the Panthers. They started slow last week against the Redskins, who are a pretty solid team. I mean, they're not great, but they're not bad. And when they have all the receivers, they can be difficult to beat. Also, Adrian Peterson, who could have expected that guy to actually be a good running back at his age at this point in the year? I'm going to go with the Panthers. The Browns are visiting the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield has 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. It's been a rough year for him since taking over the starting job from Tyrod Taylor. But the fact of the matter is, he's a rookie who's making an impact on a team who has got them to win 2 games, which is 100% more than they had won in the previous 2 seasons. So you've got to give him that. You just have to at least give him that. The fact of the matter here is the Buccaneers don't play well with Jameis Winston. I don't know how to explain this. Cleveland's defense is a legitimately solid and legitimately good defense. And they did actually trade away Carlos Hyde earlier this week, so that's going to affect their running game. But their defense is legitimate. And Jameis, to me, still hasn't shown me the one thing that I keep harping on it, but it's true, pre-snap reads. Jameis does not read pre-snap well, and he does not see coverages well. And even though he's a better option than Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? I mean, Fitzmagic was fun while it lasted. He's still not good enough. And Baker is electrifying enough to where the Buccaneers, if they're not able to contain him and his receivers actually catch the ball, 9.8% drop passes for the Cleveland Browns. That's the most drops of any receiving core in the entire NFL. If they actually catch passes, they'll actually be very successful today against the Buccaneers team that I think is still overwhelmingly pretty hapless. The Lions visit the Dolphins. 2-3 are the Lions. The Dolphins are 4-2. The Lions are somehow 3-point favorites in all of this. Yes, I know Brock Lobster will be starting the game. And yes, I know he's not good. But he played pretty well last week. Right? Maybe you get some time to scheme for Mr. Brock Lobster, and you get to stop him. But here's the thing. This is the Lions we're talking about. And this year's Lions have been incredibly difficult to watch, in large part because they can't run the ball. The Keon Johnson has had some pretty good games for them, but without the ability to run the ball, the Lions have the same limitations that the Lions have always had, which is that Matthew Stafford has to throw the ball when everybody in the stadium knows he has to throw the ball. That's the worst place you can put a quarterback in. And I just don't trust it. I think the Dolphins are a more complete, more well-rounded team. Yes, even with Brock Osweiler at quarterback, I'm going to take the Dolphins at home. The Vikings visit the Jets. Another roller coaster quarterback in the league. And maybe I could just give you my top roller coaster quarterbacks. I'll do that next week. But Kirk Cousins is the ultimate roller coaster quarterback. When he plays well, he's surrounded with weapons. They look great. The Vikings look like they could be in a Super Bowl, and they might still be in a Super Bowl. Maybe. I mean, that defense is that good. That running attack with Latavius Murray, that's the real deal. And Kirk Cousins, when that's all working, looks good. But also, Kirk Cousins lost to the Bills, and he lost to the Bills for I don't even know what reasons. I'm not entirely certain. But he looked. You can get to Kirk Cousins, and you have him behind the 8 ball, and he starts to play it safe. He's not necessarily aggressive. They're playing the Jets. Sam Darnold is I like to call him the super rookies. He looks like he's going to be the real deal down the road for the Jets. But I'm going to take the Vikings on the road to beat the Jets because the Jets are the Jets. The Patriots visiting the Chicago Bears. Bill Belichick went out of his way this week to mention that Khalil Mack is a great player, but he's no Lawrence Taylor. And I don't even know how it is that you're supposed to take that as an insult. Yeah, I know. He's not Lawrence Taylor. You know how many people are Lawrence Taylor? None, because there's only one Lawrence Taylor. That's not an insult. That's not a problem. That's like saying about Russell Wilson that he's not Drew Brees. There's only one Drew Brees. Like, look at what Drew Brees is capable of doing with a football. There's only one person who can do that, and that's Drew. Right? Like, as much as I'd like to be a great sports broadcaster, if someone said, yeah, well, he's no Stuart Scott, I know. Like, there's only one of that guy. That guy was great. I'm definitely not him. You know what I mean? Like, some things are just not an insult. That's not an insult. The Bears have been playing very well. The Patriots are actually only 1.5-point favorites in this. Look, Matt Nagy's been brilliant as an offensive designer. He's been able to make up for some of the things that Mitchell Trubisky has not yet learned as an NFL quarterback. Josh Howard runs incredibly well. And the Patriots are 4-2. They've managed to climb out of the hole that they started the season in. I think they lose here on the road because Khalil Mack is still really good. I don't think he has to be Lawrence Taylor to march his way through the right side of the Patriots offensive line, which has been terrible this year. It's one of the underrated things about the Patriots is how bad their offensive line actually has been. They've managed to overcome it, but the Bears were actually a really good defense before they traded for Khalil Mack, and they're going to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage against the Patriots. The Bears win in the surpriser at home. The Bills are playing the Colts. They're visiting the Colts. The Colts are 1-5. The Bills are 2-4. But don't let the 1-5 Colts fool you. They're better than the Bills. Especially if they start Nathan Peterman. If they start Derek Anderson, I can't imagine that the result is somehow going to be any better. The Colts have actually scored points in games that they've played this year. They just haven't scored enough points to win. That defense is still bad. But again, Nathan Peterman isn't going to be the guy to exploit it, and neither is Derek Anderson. Okay? The Texans visiting the Jaguars. The Texans are 3-3. The Jaguars are also 3-3. The Jaguars had the brakes beaten off of them by the Cowboys last week in a 40-7 rout. The Texans have won back-to-back games now, and Deshaun Watson is starting to return a little bit more to form. The Texans are the better, more well-rounded team if you include offense and defense. The Jaguars lose here. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't see Deshaun Watson doing what Dallas was able to do last week, in large part because Lamar Miller is no Ezekiel Elliott. But they do have DeAndre Hopkins, and they do have Kyle Fuller as wide receivers, and the Jaguars are still stuck with Blake Bortles. And I don't believe in bounce-back games for Blake Bortles. I believe that Blake Bortles gives you good games in bunches, and I believe he gives you bad games in bunches. If you thought Blake Bortles was bad last week, this week I think he's actually going to be worse. The Texans beat the Jaguars on the road. The Saints visiting the Baltimore Ravens. The Saints are 4-1. The Ravens are 4-2. Drew Brees looks nearly unstoppable. He has not thrown an interception this year. Also, he's thrown 11 touchdowns. Also, Alvin Kamara's a beast. Also, Michael Thomas is back to his Pro Bowl type ways after a brilliant rookie year last year. And Joe Flacco is one of my roller coaster quarterbacks. And you would think that that would mean that I would choose the Saints. But actually, there's a wonderful breakdown on YouTube by Brett Coleman. He's a YouTuber, but he watches a lot of film, and he's one of the best, I think, film breakdown analysts in the game. You want to check out his channel. I think it'll help a lot if you're an NFL fan, especially if you're a new NFL fan and you want to learn the X's and the O's in particular. But the Ravens defense is underrated. That defense is going to be one of the better defenses that the Saints have played this year. And yes, Drew Brees has made very good defenses look very average, and very average defenses look very bad. But this defense has done a hellacious job at getting at the quarterback, and that's the only way to beat Drew Brees. You're not going to try and deceive him in coverage. You can't do that. You're not going to be able to cover up his receivers one-on-one. He's too accurate for that, and Michael Thomas is too talented and too fast. But I think that the Ravens, the way that they go about playing defense is they get to the quarterback. They get after the quarterback. And I think that Drew Brees is going to have a tough day today because the Ravens are going to beat him up. The Ravens at home with the win. The Cowboys are playing the Redskins. This is a tough game for me to pick. It's also a tough game for Vegas to pick, I've noticed. The Cowboys are favorites, but they're 1-point favorites. I don't believe in Dak Prescott. I don't believe that Dak Prescott has turned the corner. I think the Redskins and the Cowboys are far too familiar with one another for the Redskins to make the same mistake that the Jaguars made last week in not just loading up the box and making Dak Prescott beat you with his arm, which I cannot stress this enough, he can't do. He hasn't read a coverage properly this year. Now, the Redskins have their own problems too, which is that basically all of their receivers are injured. They still have Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed at tight end, though, and Adrian Peterson has still been effective in the running game. And this is not even counting Chris Thompson, who is their second back, who has also been very effective in the running game as well. That line literally just moved from 1 to 1.5 in favor of the Cowboys. I'm still taking the Redskins at home, though. I just don't believe in the Dallas Cowboys. I don't believe in Dak Prescott, and I don't believe in Scott Linehan, Jason Garrett, and that offense. The 425 games now starting The Rams visiting the 49ers. No Garoppolo for the 49ers. They're 1-5. The Rams are 6-0. Jared Goff looks just as good as he's always looked. Todd Gurley cannot be stopped. The Rams. The Bengals are visiting the Chiefs in the Sunday night game. This could be interesting because, as I mentioned before, nobody's really talking about how good the Bengals defense are. That's actually a top 3, top 4 type defense in the NFL this season. So even though Andy Dalton has been okay, he has thrown 14 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 7 interceptions. But Joe Mixon has been very good running the football. AJ Green is still the safety blanket of Andy Dalton. The Chiefs are 5-1, and they have yet to really run up against a blistering defense, a physical, overwhelming defense. But that being said, Patrick Mahomes has been nearly unstoppable, and the Bengals defense is one thing to me, physical, but you can't hit what you can't touch. And between Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt, the team speed of the Chiefs is where the Bengals are going to have trouble covering these guys. Like, Tyreek Hill doesn't get hit. He's too fast. He's incredibly too fast. And that's going to be a problem for the Bengals. The Chiefs win the Sunday night game at home to get back to their winning ways. The Monday night game is the Giants game. They're visiting the Falcons. The Falcons are 2-4. That's a deceptive 2-4. I know that you got the old Herm Edwards quote that you are what your record says you are, but the Falcons could easily be 3-3. They could easily be 4-2. They had some games go not in their favor at all, and they're much better than the Giants. Eli Manning is still the starting quarterback. Is he still? Yep. So no, I'm not picking. I'm not going to go ahead and pick the Giants there. And now it's time for the final point. I have saved enough time for this rant to make some sense. The final point, I have 2 final points. One final point is directed at the New York Giants and John Mara. John Mara has been taking shots at Odell Beckham Jr. I don't defend Odell Beckham Jr. very often because I think he's a knucklehead. I think he's legitimately one of the most annoying people in football, if not the most annoying person in football. Possibly, though I'm stretching now, all of sports. There's something about Odell Beckham Jr. that I find incredibly off-putting and I don't like. It's the attitude, But this year, Odell Beckham Jr. has tried to do everything that he's promised to do. Odell Beckham Jr. tried to be a better leader. Odell has tried to be a better teammate, but he's still doing it the way that Odell would do it. And the Giants paid Odell, and they are complaining now about the way that Odell's talking to the media. They wish that he would be the headline on the field and not off the field, is what John Mara, the owner, said. You paid Odell Beckham Jr. You knew exactly what Odell Beckham Jr. was when you paid him, and he has not changed in the regards of his personality. But he has actually tried to be a better leader. He tried to get Eli benched, which is being a good leader because we've seen how bad Eli is. He's been dreadful. This is the worst that we've seen Eli. And by the way, Eli now is the same age that Peyton was when Peyton started falling apart. Like, this is not getting better if you're the Giants. And the same way the Bills are not going to go out there and play for Nathan Peterman anymore, Odell Beckham Jr. tried to say, I'm not going to be on a team where the quarterback is terrible. But nope, Eli is the sacred cow. You can't criticize Eli. You can't bench Eli, all of that stuff, even though it was John Mara who signed off on his coach last year benching Eli. All of a sudden, John Mara is all Eli'd up. But here's what Eli's stat line looks like this season. He has thrown for 1,600 yards. He has 6 touchdowns, which, that's literally a touchdown a game. That is an average of a touchdown a game. That's ridiculous. That's so bad. And he's thrown 4 picks. The only bright spot on that team has been Saquon Barkley. But then the other issue is you want Odell Beckham Jr. to make headlines on the field instead of off it. Yeah? Is he throwing the ball to himself? Oh, wait, no. Your terrible quarterback is. He's making headlines on the field too. Only they're headlines about how bad at football that he is. And I can't understand how it is that you come down on the side of Eli on all of this. Football's supposed to be a meritocracy. It's supposed to be the sport where if you are good, you play, and if you are bad, you don't play. And all of a sudden, it's impossible to criticize and or bench Eli Manning. Crazy. Right? So that's one final point. I get two final points today. Because the second final point is Khabib Nurmagomedov wants to fight Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd is saying, I can make it happen. Why? Because Floyd likes spectacles. And Floyd likes spectacles that will get him millions of dollars for not that much work. And in that way, Floyd Mayweather is like the rest of us. My question is, please don't make this happen. Can Dana White do something to make sure that this does not happen? I understand that Khabib wants to get paid too, right? And apparently Floyd Mayweather's the rainmaker. You can go to Floyd Mayweather, you can make all the money. Fight Floyd. But here's the thing. This is not going to be an interesting fight. Conor McGregor used to box, and Conor McGregor's draw as a UFC fighter is he is one of the best strikers in the sport. So you always thought, well, he's got a puncher's chance against Floyd. There is a 0% chance that Floyd fights Khabib Nurmagomedov in an octagon, right? Floyd's not going to fight Khabib where Khabib does things well. Floyd's going to fight you in a ring where Floyd does what Floyd does well. And rightfully so. Floyd would be absolutely insane, literally out of his mind, to go fight Khabib in an octagon and try and wrestle. No. Floyd's not fighting Khabib in an octagon. So what's interesting about this? You don't have a guy in Khabib that strikes. You don't have a guy in Khabib that is willing to do the silly stuff that it takes to sell a fight, the controversial stuff that it takes to sell a fight. And if Khabib Nurmagomedov had a problem with all the awful things that Conor said about him, what do you think Floyd's going to say about him? Like, Conor has less of a filter. I think Floyd Mayweather is actually meaner. And there is nothing on this earth that I want less than a Floyd Mayweather, Khabib Nurmagomedov circus. Because here's the thing. This is the reason why boxing is gone. And I'm a big boxing fan, and it breaks my heart and it makes me sad. The reason why boxing is gone is because legitimate fights happen all the time. Great fights happen in boxing. Boxing isn't dead from a talent standpoint. Because then people pay for circuses. People are paying for circuses. And if somehow Floyd Mayweather makes him and Khabib get together in a ring, actually a thing that could work, and you pay for it, shame on you. Whoever you are out here paying for circus. I didn't pay for that Conor McGregor fight either. You're killing boxing. It's you. Thanks for joining me today. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. You know that I appreciate you. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you all next week.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD.